So for my third trip, I decided to go from the Sarasota airport in order to achieve an extra bonus airport for our return. Since Sarasota is only about an hour away by car, I figured it was a pretty easy way to knock off another airport. On this trip, we're hitting JFK, staying in the TWA Airport before flying down to New Orleans for a 24-hour layover, and finally going to Fort Lauderdale on the way to Philadelphia before taking a rental car up to New York for a final flight back to Sarasota. This time I brought my daughter Jojo with me because I thought this would be a good trip to expose her a little more to travel and had some cool locations that could be family friendly. You ready for your flight?
Yeah.
Our flight to New York from Sarasota was on a 1-year-old A220 named Across the Blueniverse. For those of you following along, you'll remember that this was actually the plane that I took to get back from New York to Tampa. So, small world. Boarding was relatively painless and we settled in for our flight. What are we going to do in New York?
Gonna do some fun stuff.
Yes.
On behalf of
We took off pretty quickly after boarding and settled into our entertainment. I chose to read a book while Jojo watched Wicked for maybe the 100th time. At a certain point in the flight, she began to serenade everyone with the soothing sounds of defying gravity. I really do apologize retroactively to everyone on that flight. Although you have to admit, the girl has charisma. We had no major issues on this flight, and about 2 and some change hours after takeoff, we landed at JFK. One particular advantage that we had in this trip is that JetBlue operates primarily out of Terminal 5 at JFK. Coincidentally, that also happens to be the terminal where the TWA Airport Hotel is located. So we had a relatively short walk to the hotel from our gate. Signage to the hotel wasn't terrible, however, it certainly could be improved upon. After taking the elevator up from the gate, you're greeted by a replica of the TWA co-founder Howard Hughes' office. Like so much in the TWA Airport Hotel, this was an amazingly interactive history display. Jojo had an absolute blast checking it out, and I had to pry her away from it before we could enter the hallway to get to the hotel. Once you're in the walkway, you really do feel like you're stepping back in time, as the hotel does an amazing job of recreating history. Interestingly, the hotel does a self-check-in. So after ruining about 100 keys trying to make the thing work, we finally got a working card and made our way to the hotel room. We struggled a little bit getting our luggage into the actual room. Do you want to look at the window? I would highly recommend spending the little extra money and getting views of the tarmac. This was an absolutely incredible addition to the room, and it really enhanced the value that we got from the hotel. While I unpacked our bags, Joe decided to do a small art project. One cool feature of the rooms is that they offer complimentary pencils featuring the logo of TWA. These make really good cheap souvenirs, as well as hours of entertainment for your little one. After a bit of relaxation in the room, we decided to check out the rest of the hotel. The center of the hotel has really amazing poured concrete architecture and offers several different seating areas as well as cocktail bars. The lobby also has 2 fun separate areas, one for Twister and the other one a recreation of a 1950s, 1960s hair salon. Joe had a great time playing hair salon, and we saw a number of adults who also enjoyed this very immersive experience. After our little play date, we decided to take a tour of the hotel and see what other features they had available. You seriously could spend hours in this hotel checking out the different rooms that they have available, admiring the architecture, and looking at the different historical displays that they had. I really can't say enough how amazing this hotel is for both kids and adults, with a sense of adventure. After about an hour of exploration, we decided to get a quick snack of some ice cream before making our way up to the rooftop pool and bar. It should be noted that the hotel does charge extra for the pool, but I will say that it is 100% a worthwhile expense. The pool is heated and looks out over the tarmac of the airport and has very spectacular views over the rest of the airport buildings. Our 2-hour time slot was during sunset, and I really can't say how amazing it was to watch the sunset over Manhattan while looking at planes taking off and landing in the distance.
This is luxury.
After the sun finally set, we had a quick dinner of chicken fingers for Jojo, which I paired with an old-fashioned, which unfortunately was kind of mediocre. We showered off and relaxed before taking our final journey of the night. Another one of the many cool features about the TWA Airport Hotel is that they have a retired airplane converted into a cocktail bar. This retrofitted plane serves as an amazing location for an after-dinner cocktail, and as Jojo wants me to point out, serves some excellent snacks, including... I sipped on a paper plane while Jojo enjoyed her dessert. With an impromptu dance party on the tarmac to help digest, we settled in for the night. After a good sleep, we woke up and enjoyed a quick breakfast before making our way downstairs to the terminal. Our hotel was only about a 10-minute walk to security, so we actually could sleep in a little bit more, which was a nice luxury. Boarding was fairly smooth, and we hopped aboard our 12-year-old A320 named Blue Yorker. This trip was uneventful. Jojo was allowed to stay in her pajamas since I really didn't want to have a fight putting her in clothes this morning. To me, flexibility and comfort are two of the biggest things I can recommend when traveling with kids. Also on this trip, I found out that Jojo has a real fondness for the Biscoff cookies, and she actually stole mine. After a little over 3 hours, we arrived in New Orleans. Since we were flying east to west, we actually gained an extra hour on this trip. After deboarding the plane, we made our way through the airport to the bus pickup area, with a quick pit stop to stay hydrated. A number of the local hotels have transport shuttle services to and from the airport, including our hotel, the Hilton New Orleans Airport. We only had about a 5-minute wait before our bus came, and it was a quick 10-minute ride to our actual airport hotel. In classic 4-year-old fashion, even though we had the entirety of New Orleans ahead of us, Jojo wanted to explore the hotel, so we spent about an hour checking out the different rooms in the hotel. I got treated to a little one-woman performance featuring a pony, and we then ventured off on our Uber to Mardi Gras World. I highly recommend anyone who has kids to try out Mardi Gras World. Mardi Gras World is located inside Kern Studios, who produces many of the floats that are seen during the Mardi Gras parade each year. Included as part of your tour, you're treated to a piece of king cake, a video describing the history of Mardi Gras and the production of floats, and finally a tour of the production facility where all of the floats are made. This exhibit is really a fantastic way of checking out Mardi Gras, even if you're going at the wrong time of year. After the tour ended, we had a chance to walk around and check out the amazing artwork on display, before finally checking out a couple items at the gift shop. One very neat lanyard that the Mardi Gras World offers is a complimentary bus that takes you to and from Canal Street hotels. Even though we Ubered, we took advantage of the bus and made our way to Canal Street before taking a walk along the riverfront. To be honest, this is one of those ideas that I had that I thought would be really fun in theory, but turned out to be a real disaster. So we visited in the peak of summer. The Riverwalk was hot and there wasn't a lot of shade available. So I ended up carrying my 4-year-old all the way down the Riverwalk, and neither of us really got to enjoy it very much. Once we got to the French Quarter, however, we did take a little chance to stop under some shade and look at the ferry boats, which both of us agreed was a much better time than walking down the riverfront. After a chance to rehydrate, we entered the French Quarter and made a little detour to a gift shop. One thing that I forgot, since I haven't visited New Orleans as a parent, is that many of the gift shops offer, let us say, less than appropriate items for sale for kids. After answering a couple awkward questions, we finally got to Café du Monde. While our trip to Café du Monde didn't turn out exactly to my plan, I will still stand that it was a good idea in theory and would have been better if we did it earlier in the day. The beignets came out super hot, which for an impatient and hungry 4-year-old was not something that she wanted to deal with. However, I will say she was enamored with my chicory coffee until the beignets cooled down. After refreshment and caffeination, we grabbed yet another Uber to Storyland. Storyland is about a 15 to 20 minute drive away from the French Quarter and is really a great location if you have young children and want to spend a little time outdoors but in a nice shaded area. For the low cost of $8, you're transported into a completely different world where all of the storybook characters from Grimm's fairy tales come to life and you're able to engage with them in a really fun way. Joe and I spent about an hour here before we decided to go back to our hotel room. We probably could have played for another hour, but at that point in the day, Joe was getting kind of tired and cranky and we both wanted some dinner. Our original plan was to go to the hotel restaurant before heading in for the night, but unfortunately it didn't really offer anything that we were interested in and didn't have a really good kids selection. So I ordered cocktails and Joe made an absolute menace of herself while we waited for our Uber Eats to arrive. I went for the classic fried oyster po' boy while Jojo enjoyed a pepperoni pizza. Both were incredibly satisfying and we turned in for the night. After waking up, we made our way out of our hotel and back to the airport. Since we had a bit of time before our flight, we decided to check out the club at the New Orleans airport. This airport lounge had a really nice layout, offering a really good breakfast buffet option. They had some pretty good southern classics as well as a cold station. Jojo went for the chocolate muffin, as is tradition, and I had a latte. We had an impromptu dance party before making our way out of the lounge and back towards our terminal. While we were waiting for our flight, Jojo invented a new game called Make Daddy Panic, where she would launch herself at complete strangers and I would have to catch her before we had to pay damages. This time we were on a 2-year-old A321 operated by Spirit. It is a little weird riding on Spirit these days because you never know when the airline is going to go under, although there is a very small chance that the airline will pull through. I do have to say that even though it really is a economy airline, the plane was clean, the flight attendants were professional, and other than the bare bones aspect, it was a very comfortable ride. Whenever you go on Spirit or other similar economy airlines, it's important to bring your own entertainment. Thankfully, in a rare stroke of common sense, I remembered to download Paw Patrol on Jojo's iPad. After a smooth flight over the Gulf, we landed in Fort Lauderdale. Trips like this really make me realize how ridiculous this whole enterprise is, since we left Florida to go to New York, back to New Orleans, back to Florida, back up to Philadelphia, and then making our way to New York to go back to Florida. It's just a wild ride. At this point in the trip, I realized that I would not be able to access my boarding passes via the app. Unfortunately, with such a complicated itinerary, I think that we exceeded the capacity of the application in order to work with what we needed. Unfortunately, we had to exit the security and then return after collecting our tickets. Thankfully, we still had plenty of time to check out the Escape Lounge. The Escape Lounge is an Amex Partner Lounge and offers a really nice retreat in the middle of the airport. Both the food and drink options were very acceptable, and Jojo and I enjoyed a meatball lunch as well as charcuterie, finishing on a small cookie. I set Jojo up with some coloring while I went to the bar, and when I returned, I found that she had summoned Cthulhu with some archaic drawings. Fortunately, I was able to soothe her with a Shirley Temple she thoroughly enjoyed, for about 2 sips. After we finished relaxing in the lounge, we went to our gate and boarded our flight to Philadelphia. This time we were on a 20-year-old A320 named Blue Tea Full, which, as you remember, was the plane that started this whole adventure. Once more, our flight was very smooth as we made our way up to Philadelphia. To repeat history a little bit, Biscoffs and Wicked were back on the menu. We actually landed in Philadelphia a little ahead of schedule, which is a really nice treat. This allowed some buffer time to get to the rental car area. One thing I will note for future travelers is that the Philadelphia car rental area is outside of the major airport and is a very slow bus ride. Make sure you budget at least 30 to 45 minutes to get your car. My original plan was to take our rental car to one of my favorite restaurants in Philadelphia, Frankfurt Hall, but unfortunately parking was horrendous and the city looked a little too rowdy for me to stop with a 4-year-old. So instead of delicious sausage and beer, we treated ourselves to some wonderful roadside charcuterie. Traffic was unfortunately really horrendous heading from Philadelphia to New York. Even though I spent the first 20 years of my life in New Jersey, I still forget how bad the traffic can be on the New York bridges. What I originally mapped out to be a 2-hour ride ended up being closer to 3, and we were really exhausted by the time we made our way to our hotel. We unpacked, I had a quick cocktail, and we went right to bed. Good night. The next morning, we woke up and took the rental car to the New York airport. In a really spectacular contrast to Philadelphia, the rental car area in JFK Airport has direct access to the air train which connects all of the terminal. We took the SkyTrain back to our old friend Terminal 5 and proceeded to our gate. After a quick muffin, we boarded our final plane of the trip. Final flight. Thank God.
That is the fighting.
On this final flight, we were on an A220, brand new, named History Has Its Eyes on Blue. After a 3-hour journey, we landed safe and sound in Sarasota. What did you think of the trip?
Good.
What was your favorite part?
Doing your hair pretend.
In the end, fairly successful trip, albeit a stressful one. On this trip, I managed to hit 4 airports, traveling through 5 different states, which brings my total number of airports up to 14. Just 1 airport away from 150,000 JetBlue points. We look forward to seeing you next time, and until then, make sure to like and subscribe.